Hello everyone, welcome to the final lecture of our strategic management. Let's start with the discussion of your BCG or your Boston Consulting Group matrix. So basically, when we speak of your BCG or your BCG model, it definitely relates to marketing. So the BCG model is a well-known portfolio management tool used in product lifecycle theory. So BCG Matrix is often used to prioritize which products within a company product mix get more funding and attention. So in addition to that, when we speak of your BCG, this is basically developed by Bruce Henderson of the Boston Consulting Group in early 70s. So it is based on classification of products and of course implicitly also company business units into 4 categories based on combinations of market growth and market share relative to the largest competitor. So when is BCG used? When should it be used? So each product has its product life cycle, and each stage in product's life cycle represents a different profile of risk and return. In general, a company should maintain a balanced portfolio of products. Having a balanced product portfolio includes both high growth products as well as low growth products. Okay, so what do we mean by high growth product? So a new product that a company is trying to get to some market, it takes some effort and resources to market it, to build distribution channels, and to build sales infrastructure. But it is a product that is expected to bring the gold in the future, or the revenue or the profit in the future. So an example of this product would be a newly innovated smartphone. On the other hand, when we speak of your low growth product, okay, so established product known by the market, characteristics of these product does not change much. Customers know what they are getting, and the price does not change much either. So this product has only limited budget for marketing. This is the milking cow that brings in the constant flow of cash. So an example of this product would be a regular, for example, Colgate toothpaste. It's already known in the market. Okay. So how does BCG work? Okay, so placing products in the BCG matrix results in 4 categories in a portfolio of a company. So we have here the BCG stars. So there is high growth and high market share. Okay, so stars are defined by having high market share in a growing market. Okay, so stars are the leaders in the business but still need a lot of support for promotion and placement. So if market share is kept, stars are likely to grow into cash cows. Okay, next we also have your BCG question marks. Okay, so BCG question marks are known for their high growth. However, there is low market share. So these products are growing markets but have low market share. So question marks are essentially new products where buyers have yet to discover them. So the marketing strategy to get markets to adopt these products, or the marketing strategy rather, is to get markets to adopt these products. So question marks have high demands and low returns due to low market share. So these products need to increase their market share quickly or they become dogs. So the best way to handle Question marks is to either invest heavily in them to gain market share or perhaps to sell them. So what do we mean by dogs? The BCG dogs is known for their low growth markets and low market share. So dogs should be avoided and minimized. Okay, so expensive turnaround plans usually do not help. Okay, if the product belongs to the dog's matrix, it simply means that there is low growth market and at the same time there is also low market share. Okay, so to have a better understanding of our BCG matrix, okay, so in here for stars, they produce large amounts of cash because of high market share. Okay, they have high volume of customers but consume large amount of cash because of high growth. So it starts maintain or extend market share. They may become cash cow. If stars, rather, I'm sorry for that typo error. If stars maintain or extended market share, they become cash cow. All right, so question mark or your problem child, also known as your problem child. So these are the products with growing, what's this? They grow rapidly rather, okay, but they consume large amount of cash. Okay, so they have the potential to increase market share and become stars. But if they are not maintained or if they do not increase, they become dogs. So dogs, they have low market share and low growth rates. They do not consume much cash, but they do not produce also any. Okay, so business units are likely to be sold. And then we have, of course, the cash cow. So these are leaders in mature markets and produce more cash than they consume. So this is basically the aim of the company, diba? So companies milk business units so they can invest cash in other products or services. For example, the cash might be used to turn problem children or problem child or the question mark into stars. Okay. All right. So this is basically another example of your BCG matrix. So these are the strategies that might be used. Okay. So for your question mark, if you are able to maintain or grow your market share for question mark, it might turn into stars. Okay, if not, then you have to divest it. Okay, so if you have stars, you may turn that stars if you invest money or if you invest more and increase your market share, then perhaps your stars might turn into your cash cow. If your question mark, okay, is not working, okay, it might become your dog. And then your strategy for the dog is basically to kill that product. Okay, there you go. All right, so in brief, in your BCG matrix, so we mentioned earlier that your question mark, they have low market share, okay, high market growth. If you do not know what to do with the opportunities, you might either decide whether to increase investment or not, because these products may turn into dogs wherein they have low market share and low market growth. Okay, it's weak in market and it's difficult to make profit. For stars, they also have high market share and high market growth. Okay, so perhaps if this is doing well, it could be a great opportunity to turn this into cash cow. So high market share for cash cow and low market growth. So they are doing well in no growth market with, of course, limited opportunity. All right. Okay, next, let's proceed to your IE matrix or your internal external matrix. So your internal external or IE matrix is basically another strategic management tool used to analyze working conditions and strategic position of a business. So the internal and external matrix, or short IE matrix, is based on an analysis of your internal and external business factors, which are combined into one suggestive model. So your IE matrix is actually a continuation of your EFE. You remember your EFE matrix and your IFE matrix models. So how does IE Matrix work? So IE Matrix belongs to the group of strategic portfolio management tools in a similar manner like your BCG Matrix and okay, so the IE Matrix positions an organization into a 9-cell matrix. So the IE Matrix is based on the following two criteria. So scores from your EFE matrix, which is plotted on the y-axis, and scores from your IFE matrix plotted on the x-axis. Okay, so the IE matrix works in a way that you plot the total weighted score from the EFE matrix on the y-axis and draw horizontal line across the plane. Then you take the score calculated in the IFE matrix, plot it on the x-axis, and draw a vertical line across the plane. The point where your horizontal line meets your vertical line is the determinant of your strategy. So this point shows the strategy that your company should follow. So on the x-axis of the IE matrix, an IFE total weighted score of 1.0 to 1.99 represents a weak internal position. A score of 2.0 to 2.99 is considered average. A score of 3.0 to 4.0 is strong. On the x-axis, an EFE total score of 1.0 to 1.99 is considered low. A score of 2.0 to 2.99 is medium, and a score of 3.0 to 4.0 is high. Okay, so there you go. Again, you have to determine the total score of your EFE and your IFE. Okay, so your EFE is basically your x-axis. Tama ba? IFE. IFE. IFE X. EFE is Y. Okay, so this is an example. So remember in your EFE, okay, and your IFE, okay, so you have to get the total score of your EFE and then your total score of your IFE. So you have to plot and then try to determine where they intersect. Okay, so we have your 9 cells here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, you grow and build. 4, 5, 6, you hold and maintain. 7, 8, 9, you harvest or maybe divest. So what does your IE matrix tell us? Your horizontal and vertical line meets in one of the 9 cells in your IE matrix. So you should follow a strategy depending on which cell those lines intersect. So the IE matrix can be divided into 3 major regions that have different strategy implications. So cell 1, 2, and 3 suggest the grow and build strategy. So this means intensive and aggressive tactical strategies. Okay, so your strategy should focus on market penetration, market development, and product development. From the operational perspective, you may use a backward integration, forward integration, or maybe horizontal integration. Okay, moving on. Cells 4, 5, and 6 suggest the hold and maintain strategy. In this case, your tactical strategies should focus on market penetration and product development. So cells 7, 8, and 9 are characterized with the harvest or exit strategy. So if costs for rejuvenating the business are low, then it should be attempted to revitalize the business. In other cases, aggressive cost management in a way to play the end game. Okay. All right, so finally, let's discuss your QSPM matrix or your quantitative strategic planning matrix. So this is basically a high-level strategic management approach for evaluating possible strategies. Your QSPM, provides an analytical method for comparing feasible alternative actions. So the QSPM method falls within the so-called stage 3 of the strategy formulation analytical framework. Remember, we have your stage 1, stage 2, and this is the final stage. Okay. So, quantitative strategic planning matrix, which comprises stage 3 of the strategy formulation analytical framework. Okay, basically the objective is to indicate which alternative strategies are best. So the QSPM uses the input from stage 1 analysis and matching results from stage 2, to decide objectively which among alternative strategies are best. Okay. So these are the 6 steps required to develop a QSPM. So step 1, make a list of the firm's key external opportunities, threats, and internal strengths or weaknesses in the left column of your QSPM. So basically, this information should be taken directly from your EFE matrix and IFE matrix. So step 2, assign weights to each key in external and internal factors. So these weights are identical to those in the EFE matrix and the IFE matrix. So the weights are presented in a straight column, just to the right of the external and internal critical success factors. Okay, so the third step is for you now to examine the stage 2 or the matching matrices and identify alternative strategies that the organization should consider implementing. Record these strategies, okay, in the top row of your QSPM. Group strategies into mutually exclusive sets if possible. So remember, the top row of a QSPM consists of alternative strategies derived from your SWOT matrix, space matrix, or maybe your BCG, your IE matrix. Okay, so these matching tools usually generate similar feasible alternatives. However, not every strategy, okay, suggested by the matching techniques has to be evaluated in a QSPM. So strategists, okay, should use good intuitive judgment in selecting strategies to include in a QSPM. All right, so the fourth step is to determine the attractiveness scores or your ES. So it's defined as your numerical values that indicate the relative attractiveness of each strategy in a given set of alternatives. So your AS are determined by examining each key external or internal factor. So one at a time and asking the question, does this factor affect the choice of strategies being made? If the answer to this question is yes, then the strategies should be compared relative to key factor. Specifically, so attractiveness scores should be assigned to each strategy to indicate the relative attractiveness of one strategy over others, considering the particular factor. So the range for attractiveness scores is 1, that is not attractive, 2, for somewhat attractive, 3, reasonably attractive, and 4 is highly attractive. So by attractive, we mean the extent that one strategy compared to others enables the firm to either capitalize on the strength, improve the weakness, exploit opportunity, or avoid threat. So work row by row in developing a QSPM. If the answer to the previous question is no, indicating that the respective key factor has no effect upon the specific choice being made, then do not assign attractiveness scores to the strategies in that set. Use a dash to indicate that the key factor does not affect the choice being made. Note, if you assign an AS score to one strategy, then assign AS scores or score to the other. In other words, if one strategy receives a dash, then all others must receive a dash in a given row. Okay? Next is your step 5. So you have to compute the total attractiveness scores. So total attractiveness scores, or your TAS, are defined as the product of multiplying the weights from step 2 by the attractiveness scores in step 4 in each row. So the total attractiveness scores indicate the relative attractiveness of each alternative strategy. Considering only the impact of the adjacent, external or internal critical success factor. So the higher the TAS, the more attractive the strategic alternative. Considering only the adjacent critical success factor. And the final step is for you to compute the sum total attractiveness score. So add total attractiveness score in each strategy column of the QSPM. Okay? The sum total attractiveness scores, or the STAS, reveal which strategy is most attractive in each set of alternatives. So higher scores indicate more attractive strategies, considering all the relevant external and internal factors that could affect the strategic decisions. The total magnitude of the difference between the sum total attractiveness scores in a given set of attractive alternatives indicate the relative desirability of one strategy over another. Okay, so this is an example of a QSPM for a retail computer store. So you have to list your key factors. We have opportunities, threats, we also have strengths and weaknesses. Okay, all right, so you have to indicate the scores from your IFE and your EFE matrix. Right, so on top of your QSPM would be your strategic alternatives. Okay, in this case, we have here 1 and 2. For others, maybe you might put your market penetration, product development, okay, etc. It depends on your strategies. Okay, and then of course, you have to follow the steps that we discussed earlier, and then based on the total here, as you can see, the number 1 alternative is actually the best alternative. Okay, so when you're done with your QSPM, of course, you have to come up now with your operational plan. So when we speak of operational plan, this is basically a highly detailed plan formulated by the management to achieve tactical objectives. What are tactical objectives? These are basically objectives that have short range, okay, term which focuses on firms' products and services and develops plan to maximize market share and enhance financial projections. So operation planning focuses on the production equipment, personnel, inventory, and the process of a business. So the benefit of operational planning is that a company is able to analyze the effect of its operations on profit. Okay, so it dissects a company's financial position, identifies weakness, and develops ways to increase profits. If operational planning is executed, okay, the management can take the necessary steps to make corrections. So this is a sample operational plan. So we have here your key areas. We have your objectives. Okay, so the people or departments involved, what would be your time frame, and perhaps you have to identify also your budget. Right? So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching this lecture.